And another episode of Fourth and Fantasy. My name is Honcho, and this is my right hand man.
Siriaco, call me Rocco.
And this is Fourth and Fantasy.
Let's
We're gonna be
go.
let's go, baby. We're gonna be bringing y'all some more vibes, some more of this wonderful two faces that y'all have grown to see over these last few months. And we're gonna be talking about guys that we think are gonna break out next year, or should I say, next season, because we're already in the new year. Rocco, I think this last year was kind of fun to see certain guys really become get a role, figure out that role, grow with their team, growing within that offense, and produce. We saw guys like Jalen McMillan score the last 5 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks of the NFL season as a rookie. We saw Berkey Irving take off as a rookie. We saw
Mm-hmm.
Malik Neighbors tear up the league from day one. We saw, you know,
Hmm.
Bo Nix come into a Broncos situation that wasn't seen as the greatest situation to come in, just due to the salary cap, them not really having the weapons around him on paper to produce. Saw him come into the league, show out, and do his thing. What what we are looking at now are guys that potentially, had a good, I won't say when we say had a good first year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the guys like we're going to be mentioning Xavier Worthy, guys that didn't have 1,000 yards, but we saw flashes that they could be or can turn into top 15, top 10 guys. And that's kind of really what's about in Dynasty. You're looking for guys that could end up being, not everybody needs to be a CeeDee Lamb. Not everybody needs to be a Jamar Chase. Not everybody needs to be a Justin Jefferson, needs to be a Brees Hall, needs to be a Bijan Robinson, needs to be a Jamar Gibbs, like the top three, top four at their position. You need guys on your team that you obviously do need the elite players, some, but you also need those depth guys, those flex guys that can get you points when you really need them. We see injuries happen. Shoot, we saw a lot of injuries happen last season. What guys can you throw in there and still get you points and not feel
Mm-hmm.
like you're losing too much of those what you would have had or what you would have had with the starters that you were going to have in your starting lineup to begin with. So these are guys that next year, just depending on if a new coach going to them, or there's a certain player leaving that team that brings more opportunity towards them. Sometimes it's just about them getting on the field, just needing more opportunity to shine. So Rocco, what give us your first guy on your list that you think can break out next year?
Um, yeah. So for me, a breakout is you're either talking about a guy that came from nowhere to being a serviceable, startable guy. Um, Guys that I think about as breaking out in this category last year would be like a Chuba Hubbard. Nobody really had him on your radar last year, and Jonnu Smith, who people just thought Arthur Smith was fucking with us by having him outscore
No, literally
Kyle
though.
Pitts last year. But guys that were afterthoughts that came out of nowhere, and then you have your guys break out from good to great. And that's kind of where the guys, most of my guys will land.
Hmm.
Um, my first guy will start at the top at the quarterback position. You've probably heard me talk about this guy before. He's probably my second favorite quarterback prospect to Anthony Richardson, a guy that didn't get a chance to play in 2024, And there were a lot of questions as to whether he would even get onto the field in 2025 because the guy ahead of him was playing Pro Bowl ball. We're talking about Sam Darnold, who led his team to 14 wins. Well, Sam Darnold embarrassed himself in the last 2 weeks, and he's going to be looking for a new home in 2025. This guy will be the starting quarterback in 2025 for your Minnesota Vikings, and he will be throwing to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. He will be throwing
Hawkinson.
to T.J. Hawkinson. This team could draft another great running back, or they can roll out with Aaron Jones, and they have a great offensive play caller. Give me the national champion, J.J. McCarthy.
J.J. McCarthy, the love kid, the golden child, the chosen one, if you will, if for the Minnesota Vikings. I do see that him having a nice coming back. I've already heard that he's throwing well. He's on his feet. Everything is looking well. It's checking out, and he's going into a situation like you just said. You have a Jordan Addison, you have a Justin Jefferson, you have a Hawkinson, and you never know. They could end up drafting an Ashton Genty. I hear a lot of chatter of them going to go get a Caleb Johnson, adding another threat to that offense with an already great head coach, right? And O'Connell. We all love the kittens. Listen, I personally think that JJ McCarthy, if we were going back to the last draft,
hmm
he was some people's QB1. If you were talking to certain people, but that had him ahead of Jaden Daniels, that had him ahead of
Yeah,
a Bo Nix, that had him. Some people were going even to the lengths of having him ahead of Caleb Williams. You know,
yeah.
so
A lot of people um, said that he was walking into the best situation out of all of the quarterbacks, including Caleb Williams, who, as it turns out, wasn't walking into the best situation because he had a shit show in the coaching staff. So he wasn't walking into the best situation. Apparently, um, you know, hopefully, that situation gets better with a new coaching staff. But everything's ready built for J.J. McCarthy to just eat next year, and he can move a little bit, so he has that over Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold got that deer in the headlights kind of look to him once he got hit a couple times because he couldn't move. So the fact that J.J. McCarthy can move, he's on a rookie contract, and he's on a team with some of the best weapons in the entire league. I don't see no reason why he can't smash in 2025.
I agree. And what to you would be a successful season for JJ McCarthy? Like if you JJ McCarthy goes out, he comes back, he goes through training camp, he goes through, you know, the whole off-season program, and then we get to the regular season, we go through the regular season. What is a successful season for you from JJ?
I don't see any reason why he couldn't put up. Um, it's hard to say. Um, I think a successful season is one where he has 4,000, 4,500 yards, 30 plus touchdowns, a few on the ground. But I mean, the sky's the limit because we just saw what this team did with a perennial bust at quarterback,
Sam
in Sam
Darnold. I mean,
Darnold,
hey,
and
yeah.
you know this this guy's another highly drafted guy, but I this just guy has just a winning kind of aura to him. He's always won. He won the national championship, and I think I'm not gonna say Michigan held him back, but he wasn't allowed to fully spread his wings with Michigan because of the offense that Harbaugh won. It's hard to argue with the results, but the skill set on this guy is amazing. He could throw on the run, he can move, and he can make all the throws, and he's just got a lot of moxie to him, and that's gonna win games in the league. So
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why this guy can't put up 20 fantasy points a game in 2025.
I think a successful season from JJ would be what we saw from Bo Nix. If he can come out and give us the season that we just saw from Bo Nix, I am 100% happy with McCarthy and have drafted him on several different teams. I'd be okay with that season. My player to watch out would my first one would be Jordan Whittington from the Rams. Why do I go with Jordan? Because he, like I was saying, what makes a breakout player sometimes it's just opportunities. That is somebody who is potentially could get a lot of touches from dun 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 Cooper Cup being moved from the Rams is either by a trade or being released. Kind of crazy, or not really crazy because he's been injured lately, and also of recent he's just an older receiver. So one, he's has a contract. Two, he's an older receiver, and one of the biggest superpowers that a player really can have at the end of the day is availability. Can you be on the field? Can you stay on the field? And that's something that Cooper Cup has had trouble doing. And when he's been on the field, he isn't producing like we usually are used to seeing him do. So, that being said, what we saw from Jordan Whittington from Texas, from the limited opportunities, his best game of the year was 10 targets, 7 catches for 89 yards. He didn't have any touchdowns on the season, but man, I think that's somebody. He's 6'1", 202. I think he can carve out or take more of that role to get more of the touches. When they were actually trying to get him the ball, the games that Cooper Cup were out and or Puka was out, and it was just him throwing them
Mm-hmm.
out there, I liked what we saw from Jordan. So, and this is really, I've been buying him anywhere I can in this offseason. I've gotten him for third rounders. I've got him for a 2027, I believe, second, because it was just so far off. I was okay with giving sending that out. If it's a third, I've been able to do 2025 311. So I couldn't even see someone doing a fourth rounder. So people aren't really the highest on Jordan, but also I don't think people know about the opportunity that Jordan has that could await him if said Cooper Cup is going off that roster. But that's my first guy.
Yeah, I like Whittington. I've had him on a lot of my rosters. I heard kind of whispers about him. He was a highly recruited guy coming out of high school. For whatever reason, I think he had some injuries in college. He kind of got put to the back burner. But I had him on just about every taxi squad coming into last year. And I had to make an emergency start of him in my home league. I had AJ Brown was out. I believe Jonathan Taylor was out. CMC was obviously out, and he put up almost 16 points against Green Bay. So he helped me get a win, and I think he can play a similar role to a lot of those Rams guys. He's not the burner like they like to use on the outside, who's mostly just a decoy. But
No,
he's a guy that can get open in a variety of ways, and those guys that can get open in a variety of ways seem to find targets on the Rams. So yeah, I think he's sky's the limit for that guy.
yeah, he's a good. Yeah, I think he's great after the catch. What really is going to be a factor is if Matthew Stafford comes back as a quarterback. I don't know when that would be. I think right now they're trying to figure out the contract of it all, and you know the kind of the direction of what they want that offense to go. Honestly, but I hope Matthew Stafford's back because honestly, what is the real option for them to do? I think they could go out and get you a Justin Fields. They could go out and get you who also a Sam Darnold if Matthew Stafford ends up leaving. You just never know. So that I think that is one thing that we are going to have to look out. But I like me some Jordan for sure. Give us your number two, Rocco.
All right. Yeah, and these guys are in no particular order, but my second guy is he's just a fun guy. He's a fun guy to have on your team. He has a cool name, and he hasn't really done much in his career, but he started to kind of go off towards the end of last year after doing squat most of the year. And his quarterback situation can't get much worse because he had a guy throwing to him that puts mayonnaise in his coffee and eats
Oh
bananas
my
without taking
goodness.
the skin off. Yeah,
Oh
he's
my
kind of
goodness.
weird. And the worst part about him
Mhm.
is his passing accuracy. I'm talking about Chigoziem Okonkwo, who is just a guy that I've wanted to see succeed for a long time, and he brings with him one of the prerequisites for being an elite tight end is elite athleticism. You know, he
Mhm.
can just kind of go and trying to look because I know he had some long touchdowns.
Oh yeah, he's one of
Um,
the he's one of when it comes to stature wise, he's not the 6'5", 250,
hmm
260 pound type of tight end. He's more of that
Yeah,
now modern that we see 6'2", like 240
like a
something.
Evan Ingram.
Yeah. And he is athletic as
hmm
shit.
Yeah, 70-yard touchdown against. Let's see, who was that against? That was
Chiggy
versus
definitely took
Houston.
me out the playoffs. He took me out the playoffs in some.
Yeah.
And I did not see it coming. Like he would give you 4 points, 5 points for 4 or 5 straight weeks.
hmm
Then I'll that those last 3 4 weeks of the season is where he just wanted to turn it up and knock me out of some of
Yeah.
these playoffs. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Eight catches for 59 yards against Cincy. Nine catches for 81 yards against the Colts, and five catches for 42 yards. And if you're in tight end premium, that is some really good numbers.
That's some good
Don't
pay
look
dirt
like
right
much on
there.
paper, but those are 15 to 20 points in tight end premium. And for a position that's not very strong to get that kind of production out of him, um, that those can win weeks, and he helped me win some weeks down in the stretch last year. And like I said, his quarterback situation can only get better, and a lot of times these guys take a while to break out. Just look at some of the other former Titans who were, took a while for them to break out. Jonnu Smith, who was one of my favorite breakouts from last year,
Mm-hmm.
Delaney Walker, who came from the Niners after not doing
Mm-hmm.
anything, broke out
Yeah.
all over the place for the Titans. So there's something in the water with these breakout tight ends, and I think Chiggy could be the next one.
Yeah, I think that's another one who it really depends on what his QB situation is going into the season. Are they going to draft a guy? If they don't draft a guy, are they really so deep into Will Levis to where they go? Like the best games from Chiggy came from Mason Rudolph.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't when Will Levis was at quarterback, but
Mm-mm.
I think any above average quarterback that's better than Rudolph or better than a Will Levis, if you will love Chicky because tight ends are supposed to be the quarterback's best friend. They're supposed to be there for the underneath routes, and if they're athletic enough, they can take those underneath routes and take it to the long distance, right? So it's really
Take
you
it to the
got Bill.
house.
You have it. Take it to the high. Take it to the high. This is the way we take it to the highs. You know what I'm saying? Bring it all the way back. But they have a quarterback in Callahan. It's kind of you have to figure out how to get this working. You have a running game in Tony Pollard. You have, relatively a good offensive line, sort of in a way. It's about what can you now you just have to throw a quarterback in there to really unlock some features of that offense, right? And you sort of have receivers, kind of. If you like Calvin Ridley had a couple good games, so I can't really knock him out. But I like me a good Chicky. I think he's one of the younger options,
Mm-hmm.
especially. Um, if you're looking, if you're not able to secure one of the early, top five, top eight, top 10 ish guys in tight end spot, then I think Chiggy is a great option for you if you need one. But
Who
my
you got?
second guy, I have to. He just sent or help send the Buffalo Bills to Cancun and smoking a cigar. I am talking about Xavier Worthy, Mr. Speed himself. And he's another guy that had came on later in the season. I feel like we had this expectation of him just coming in and just flying by guys. And there were a few splash plays of him doing that, of course, but he didn't crack 1,000. I don't think that offense let him crack 1,000. And when you're playing with Mahomes, we had a couple of guys go down. That running game went down. The offense went a little stale a little bit. So I understand it. But towards the later end of the season and even in the playoffs, just that we just saw against the Buffalo Bills, man, was he getting open? Was he catching it? They were being creative of getting him the ball. And what makes that offense go is that Xavier Worthy is different from all the other body types that they have in that wide receiver core, that wide receiver group, if you will. They have, like, if you look at it, they have a DeAndre Hopkins, they have a Juju Smith, they have a Rasheed Rice. Those
Hmm.
over 6 foot type of guys. They're not super fast either, but Worthy brings you that elite speed, that ability to stretch a field, and where you kind of had disappointments with Sky Moore. He didn't pan out like you want. The uh, what was his name? The dude that literally bonehead boy.
Oh, Kadarius Tony.
Thank you. He didn't pan out. So you when you're taking that chance on Worthy in that first round, that speed was always his calling card. And I'm happy to see that he's starting to really come along. And now that, let's see what he does on that big stage and what he can do going into that year two. I want to see him being more nuanced at that as a route runner. I want to see him bulk. I won't say bulk up too much because we see speed guys when they get too much. We spoke
Hmm.
about it on previous episodes when they take on too much mass or too much weight, they end up, slowing down a bit. I don't want him to slow down, but I do want him to, in a way, just gain a little bit without losing speed, but just work at the craft. I think the more as time goes on and him and Mahomes gel, him and Mahomes get more time.
Hmm.
I think the sky's the limit for him. I can't say he will be the ultimate producer like a Tyreek Hill, if you will, but I think he can be 1,000 yard receiver in that offense for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny because I don't remember a whole lot of times where they just hit him, on a bomb. Like a lot of his long touchdowns or run after catch type plays, and believe it or not, even with the slow start that he had, regular season and playoffs combined, he had 10 total touchdowns. So that just kind of shows you that he's a big time playmaker. He got um, 3 touchdowns on the ground and 7 in the air, and you just seen him kind of take over,
Hmm.
um, down the stretch because he is their most talented wide receiver. And you got Kelsey who's got a foot out the door. You
Yep.
got DeAndre Hopkins. We don't even know if he'll be back. Rasheed Rice has a terrible, terrible knee injury, and he's got
Hate to see it.
the legal problems over his head. So his 25 could be fucked already. We don't know. So there's a very non-zero chance that Xavier Worthy walks into next year as the man on offense for that team, and 1,000 yards should be the floor for this guy. I mean, he could really kind of blow the roof off of the expectations next in 2025.
And Rocco, could you just imagine our offense if it did have Rasheed Rice, a healthy Rasheed Rice, to go along with a year two Worthy? That's be something that I would 100% sign up for. And it kind of sucks for football fans just because of the situation with Rasheed Rice with his knee. And then with his legal troubles, you just don't know. And then honestly, I don't think you do see Rasheed Rice in 2025. But if we do, I do want to, I think it gives Worthy more opportunity to take those touches and really cement himself in that offense of, hey, I am somebody that you can depend on. You can't throw me the ball, and we'll be okay. We'll be fine. Now it's going to be maybe even harder if Kelsey retires. Then that's another threat that makes it, now more eyes are on you. Now you're going to need more than a Juju for that offense to really get going. But lucky for you, you have an Andy Reid, you have a Patrick Mahomes, which both are cheat codes. But so at the end of the day, if you have those guys, I think you're going to be okay.
Yeah, yeah, I think he's got a real shot of um, maybe encroaching on some of those guys that have already established themselves as the top of this class at the wide receiver position.
Yeah. Now, who is your third guy?
All right, hopefully I'm not stepping on your toes, but this guy is a guy that's kind of seen by most in the community as a giant disappointment. Um, coming into the league, he was supposed to be the next great thing, and he was the number one at his position in this rookie class, and it didn't turn out that way. And I think his problem is not quite what he did, even though he was very inefficient with his 114 targets, only 62 catches, and less than 1,000 yards on the year. His
Mhm.
problem was he was in a generational wide receiver class with the best tight end prospect of all time. When you're talking about Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., even Lad McConkey, Brock Bowers, all of them crashed 1,000 yards plus to
Mhm.
closer to 1,200 for most of those guys.
Yeah.
And he gets kind of degraded because all of those guys did good. But if you're looking historically, Devonte Adams didn't have his first 1,000 yard season until year five. Think about that for a second. He wasn't as heralded as this guy, but he was a high draft pick, and we expected a lot out of Devonte Adams. And you're talking about one of the goated receivers in the league right now. Um, but my guy is Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, the sky's the limit. You've seen the flashes constantly. Week two, 130 yards, two touchdowns. Um, and those were both long plays, those two touchdowns. One a 60-yarder. So he definitely has the talent. For whatever reason, him and Kyler Murray couldn't get on the same page. And maybe that's a Kyler Murray problem because Kyler
It
Murray
could be.
only put one touchdown, maybe two touchdowns on probably the best or the second best tight end in the league, Trey McBride. So um, Kyler Murray needs to stop playing so much Call of Duty and get with his receivers and have that great season that we felt like we were promised with some of those big early years. Before we start to rethink the way we think about Kyler Murray as maybe not one of those top guys and maybe a guy that's closer to bust than being a top 10-ish guy. So um, I think that Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. need to spend the whole offseason working together, and there's no reason why Marvin Harrison can't come out in 2025 and put up seasons like some of his peers did in 2024.
I hear that. I like that one, Rocco, and I like this your selection right there. So for my last picks, it was hard for me to just to choose one. So I'm gonna just
Mm-hmm.
go with two guys. It's a tie for me because I think both of these guys can. They both had one. Both had two different situations. One guy didn't come along till later in the season because he wasn't a starter. He came the starter towards the end of the year, but that last game, man, did he show what he could be for 2025. And then the other guy was drafted high and just didn't have the season that we thought of. Or this another receiver, just like Marvin Harrison Jr. He was paired with the number one overall pick, Caleb Williams, which was said to be the best situational quarterback was going into, but the coaches that they had at the time couldn't bring that potential out. The person that I am thinking of, or the two players that I'm thinking are Rome Odunze and Michael Penix Jr. Those guys, first off, Roman Dunze, most people you had to select them at that 103, that 104 mark, and you thought you was going to get this 1,000 yard season from him. That didn't go the way you thought it went, and that's okay. I'm okay to say that not all receivers, and let's even backtrack. He had flashes. He's had 100 yard game this season. So I do like Odunze. He's 6'3", 215. And once again, you're drafted with the 101. Not to say that every 101 is going to be the same. Caleb Williams, who some people thought as a generational talent. And now to put another factor into there, you get a Ben Johnson, one of the highly touted, you know, high head coaching hires that we've seen during this off season. I think the sky's the limit for Roma Dunze. I think they're going to scheme up more opportunities to get him the ball. I think where Keenan Allen's getting older, he can transition to that wide receiver three, and then Roma Dunze could be your wide receiver two, and then DJ Moore obviously is your wide receiver one. I think that's how that offense should be paired going forward. And then you got my other guy, Michael Penix Jr., who I said didn't start the season starting. Cousins was though the starter for majority of the season. Got his opportunity towards the end of it, didn't look so great in his first start, but that last game of the season, man, the connection between him and Drake London can feed families, I tell you. And I have so much shares of Drake London. I only have a few shares of Michael Penix Jr. I just like to see him. The way he carries himself. I think he has one of the better deep balls that in that past QB draft, the QB class that we saw in the 2024 draft. I like me some Michael Penix Jr. in 2025. It'll be the second year with Zach Robinson as the offensive coordinator, so they'll be more. They'll have all season to gel and get tight with his receivers. Michael Penix could have a really nice 2025, and that's why he makes my list.
Yeah, you picked two guys that were teammates in college, so that's a good way to look at those two. That's the connection between both of them. Um, yeah, I like Odunze, and I'm kind of glad that you said that DJ Moore is still a number one because what I'm excited to see is DJ Moore in that Amon-Ra St. Brown role. He will feed
Ooh,
families,
yeah.
and you
Mm-hmm.
talk about breakout. You put a guy as good and athletic, good after the catch. I mean, he's just been terribly utilized over his career. For most of his career, he's had shit at quarterbacks. Um, you give him a good offense, you give him a good role. Oh man, that can be like a secondary breakout and a guy that can be a dark horse to lead the league in receiving yards.
Yeah, if you were Ben Johnson, you go from having Amon Ra as your best receiver, but and then who did the Lions really have at that wide receiver too? Jameson Williams finally has come along and he's shown you what a little bit of what you were wanting out of him as a first round pick, right? But who was that, second consistent person you can go to? We had Laporta, but they were off and on with him, right?
Hmm.
And with Ben Johnson, you go from having now just, you know, a Amon Ra, now you have a DJ Moore. Then people start to try to uh, square in on DJ Moore. Now you can get the ball to Roma Dunze. Now you can get the ball to
Yep.
Kokomet. So
And
go ahead.
Keenan Allen, I thought he was, but he's a free agent, so there's a good chance that he won't be back with the Browns. I mean,
I hope he.
the Bears.
I
I'm
mean, with
sorry.
the Bears, I hope the Bears do bring him back. I think he actually was pretty good last season, and there was a few
No,
weeks where
no,
he.
mm,
There was a few weeks he could be the wide receiver three because
no, no. I don't want
no,
him.
no, no, no,
No,
no.
he's taking my target pie away from DJ Moore and Romo Dunze. I need you to consolidate those targets. I don't need another guy who demands targets. Put him, send him back to San Diego to
Maybe the
Los Angeles Chargers
mm,
now.
yeah,
Send
Los
them back
Angeles
over there. They
Chargers.
can use another solid receiver that don't put the ball on the ground. Get him out of there. Let's see what we got with Romo Dunze, because if you keep Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and Romo Dunze, it's just going to be very inconsistent for my fantasy team.
I
I'm
can't be mad
greedy.
at that argument.
I'm greedy. I'm always looking
Mm.
out for the optimum fantasy situation. So fuck real football.
Fuck real football, man. And and that is our or those are some of our favorite guys to have a breakout season in 2025. And that is our episode for today. Another banger, more vibes, more info, more just fourth and fantasy. Brent coming to your phone, coming to your computer, coming to your TV. And we're still chopping. We're still going. We have our Discord. We have our fourth and fantasy league that is on and going. We have our rookie draft set. My team is our teams are already drafted. My team is looking good for this year. Rocco got all the goddamn rookie picks. It seems like in the
I got all of them,
he got all the
and I'm
bitches.
trading them
So
bad boys too. As soon as somebody come a knocking.
I think that's will be another discussion that we'll talk about throughout the offseason because there's been a few leagues where I have pivoted off some of those higher picks, whether it's been the 1-2, the 1-3, the 1-1.
Hmm.
I'm trying to get a haul. I want to move down a little bit because there's a gun just from the rookie mock draft that we just did, and that's not even with all the players that could potentially be there. There's going to I want more second and third round picks. I
Hmm.
don't think I have enough second or third round picks.
You always
So
need more.
I always need more this year. So I'm definitely going. That's my mission for
Yeah,
sure these next
I'm
weeks.
implemented. I'm implementing my strategy that worked for me last year. It's called the fake rebuild, and it's kind of working out so far for me.
Okay. And that's how we're gonna do it. God damn it. Until next time, until the next episode, y'all stay good, y'all stay funky, and we're gonna keep bringing it to you. And this has been Fourth and Fantasy. My name is Honcho, and this is my guy.
So Rocco, call me Rocco, everybody.
Until next time, y'all take care.